everybody, and welcome to the first of many Case Closed reviews where we look at a show that we've completed from this season and tell you our final thoughts on and possibly why you should watch it.
This time we are looking at Inari Konkon Koi Iroha from IMS Productions. It is streaming for free on Hulu and Funimation. And it's 10 episodes. It started here in the winter season. So it's about Inari, who is a middle school student. And in the first episode, she kind of accidentally gains the powers of a goddess named Uka from the shrine near her home.
After helping a little fox spirit who is in trouble, and she's rewarded with something, it goes wrong. To fix it, the goddess gives her some of her powers to kind of fix what went wrong with her wish.
And the show kind of centers around Inari being able to transform into other people. She can shapeshift and kind of she uses this power almost in a magical girl way, where she tries to fix people's problems or clear up understandings or conflicts, and usually it doesn't go quite as she planned. There's a lot of humor in the series, and at the same time, there's a few love stories going on. It's like a nice series about friendship and love.
I think that we generally went in with a pretty positive review of the series. When I was on Anime on Top, I thought it was the best new series of the season. And I'm glad to see that we got to, basically see that through.
Yeah, I think it ended up being my favorite show of the whole season. It was such an enjoyable show every week. And it was funny, but it also really wrapped you up, kind of like a warm blanket. It was really nice. It had a great feeling to it. Inari is a great character. She is strong, but she's sort of reckless and shy at the same time. And I loved watching her kind of build up over the season because, by the end, you can see a real difference in her, that she is kind of speaking out, stepping up in kind of that final confrontation that happens in the last episode, like with some girls at school. So I was really impressed with everybody kind of coming out of their shells as the series went on.
I was about to say, and it's based on a longer running series. I think Keiko is the only one who really didn't grow, because everybody else in the cast, but I feel like in many ways she was the most confident, so I feel like her growth is probably something that will come on later on. But yeah, I just randomly, she's the only one who really didn't. She would have been the first person to hey, why is everybody ignoring Inari? I'm gonna beat the hell out of every girl.
She did exactly that. That's why I loved her. But I loved the friendship between all the girls, so I think that she kind of had growth within the four girls, because we get a bit more of her softer side when she's talking about her friendship with Inari, how they met, and her kind of dealing with the new friend, Akemi, and her relationship with the kind of jumping into this three best friend triangle that she does. So I think there was growth within that. Maru also had a lot of character growth. She's the more otaku girl character that appears, and it's like she doesn't know how to connect with the new popular smart pretty girl.
And definitely at the end, she wasn't Keiko level, I don't take your crap, but she definitely, when people were ignoring Inari and then not mentioning why, she was like, hey man, this is my friend, you don't disrespect her that way.
So I thought it came full circle, and I really loved the friendships in the series. I think that's really what the show is about, and it's more about friendship in a more active way. It's not just a nice show where everybody's nice and eats cakes together or whatever. It's not that type of friendship show. Because obviously we haven't even talked about the biggest friendship, which is Inari and Uka. Even though Uka is this thousands of years old goddess, she is quite lonely, and I think that comes off immediately from the first episode. And Inari is this person who, even though she's kind of slight, she is a champion for her friends, and I think that's what attracts Uka to her. and what kind of makes her want to be friends with Inari.
When we first see her, she's obviously good at helping people. She's a goddess. She grants wishes. But she's not really good at connecting to either other gods or her people who worship at her shrine. I mean, even Inari's brother, who can see her, at first he thinks that she's some kind of horrible evil demon. And throughout the series, he is hard pressed, even with their growing attraction, to fully be dissuaded of that notion.
Yeah, Uka is, I think maybe, it's a funny thing because Inari is really the main character, but maybe it's just because I'm a little bit older that Uka is, especially the way that she looks, she's like the more mature, sort of like, she's like an older woman character, and I totally connected with her, not just because she's obsessed with 2D boys, which was such a hilarious and not overplayed joke in the series. Sometimes I can get like, okay, we get it, we got it, the joke is old now, but they hit it right every time when she's playing her DS, and I feel as though the camera only turns to her when she's in like the most hilarious moment, when the game will just spit out the craziest, most melodramatic lines about like how they will save her or whatever. And so I guess she's an otaku in the series, and her mom is constantly threatening to like throw out all of her otaku merchandise if she doesn't get married and all this stuff. So I guess, that helps to connect a little bit.
I was just, once again, I was really surprised that they never did the old joke where like, I only know how to talk to boys like they were characters in 2D games, in my Otome games. I mean, she didn't know how to talk to Toka exactly. She didn't assume that she was the guy from the world God only knows, and like, I'm going to use my 2D knowledge on 3D girls. It's just like, 2D world is the 2D world, the 3D world is the 3D world, and I do not assume that one is the other and vice versa.
And they didn't do that with Maru either, who is another kind of otaku-esque characters. I feel like they did a nice job with making them like fully rounded human characters. They weren't a caricature. They had like a full range of personality and emotions, and it wasn't just like a joke. But let's talk about Toka and Uka, because that is, for me, that was my ship, man. That was something about the show that I really loved. I liked all the romance in the series, and if anyone goes back and listens to the SWAT review for this show, I say, if Uka plays her cards right, she can have the brother. And I only in my dreams did I think that was actually true. But I knew from the first episode, I was like, well, he can see her, so she can just hook up with him. Thank you, Inari Konkon Iroha, for making my dreams come true. But Toka's such a funny character too, because he's an otaku and he's weirdly charming in his fantasy world. So there's that hilarious part where he tries to tell Inari's parents that she has the powers of a goddess. He's like, oh my god, you don't understand, this is what happened. And they're like,
Chinibio, brother. When will you grow out of your silly Chinibio face?
It was just spot on. They did such an excellent job. But Toka, yeah, he writes really dramatic fiction and plays video games, and that's how him and Uka connect. And I think it was so almost, it was pretty much the opposite of her 2D games. Do you know what I mean? It was almost mundane the way that they connect and come together, as opposed to the dramatic.
Yeah, it's I'm here to see Inari, but since you're here and you have a video game system that I am interested in, and games that I don't have, let's put aside our differences of you thinking that I'm a evil corruptor demon and me thinking that you're this weird but pleasant boy, and let us play games together.
I loved it. I was so overjoyed with kind of their romantic development over the series. And kind of one of the other central elements of the show is Inari's crush on Tambabashi, who is a boy in her class. She's known him for a while. He's a good dude. Like, everything about him is just like, he is a good guy, man. Like, yes. I think you could make the argument that he's like a little too perfect, flawless boyfriend-coon. I don't know, the way that he comes off is not like overconfident or arrogant or anything. He just seems very simple, so I guess I didn't, like, if you just mark down all of his good points, it might seem that way, but I feel as though the way that he is portrayed is not like, oh my god, he is the greatest man you have ever known.
Yeah, it's not like every girl in the class is like, oh my god, I think he's a model. He's more like, he has a pleasant looking face.
He's very, like, a normal guy. I mean, he's a good, like I said, he's a good guy, and we didn't see any flaws in the show. Like, he doesn't have any flaws.
He's a good guy, but he's not an internet nice guy.
Yeah, he's just, you know, he doesn't show any of the flaws that the other, like, the girls, that Inari herself, like, I don't feel like we see that about him. Or even Toka and Uka, they both have, like, their flaws too, and they fight, and, you know, but, so Tambabashi does have that, like, kind of this aura around him, I suppose, but...
You know what, though? I think there is one flaw that even he exhibits a little bit of that everybody in the cast has, which is jealousy. Because, I didn't read the manga, but you did. Maybe they played this up more because you said when Uka's dumb brother comes over and everybody's like, oh, that handsome guy's talking to Inari all the time.
They must be going out!
He is a bit jealous of, like, man, I was all totally into Inari, now this, like, studly guy's all over her. Aw, man. Yeah, and he was a little jealous, because I feel like one of the things I mentioned when we wrote up about it is it's really interesting how everybody in this series has one moment of, like, real honest jealousy. And even Tonabashi, who is really nice throughout the series, he does have a little bit of that green-eyed monster in that scene.
That's a good point. Excellent. You're right, though, Al. If we can talk about the themes, you know, for a bit, is, like, I like that you brought up that kind of everybody has this envy of other people. And Inari especially, I mean, that's how the whole story starts, is that she thinks that Akemi is the girl that Tambabashi likes.
And that she's basically angling to date him. And
so, you know, Inari ends up turning into, like, shape-shifting into Akemi. And she realizes that she's completely wrong and she had done the wrong thing. But it becomes the prevalent theme throughout the show that everybody, and I think in real life people feel this way too, everybody sort of has, like, the grass is always greener syndrome, like, oh, if only I was that person, or, oh, that person has it so much easier, or, you know, like, a little bit of that.
There is that interesting thing when the script is flipped and somebody is super jealous of Inari, and it kind of, she was, oh, if only I was this person or that person, then I'd be getting my dreams. But then when somebody she was envious of she finds out that they were just as jealous of her for similar but different reasons. It kind of brings in I think that is, like, one of the easiest times to see that, yeah, the grass is always greener. You think that this person has it so great, but in the end, they're just wishing that they had some aspect of your life. And that many times, I think one of the key things is you changing yourself, because Inari realizes that in the first episode, and then later on when that character is super jealous of Inari, they realize, wait, if I were you, I'd still be me at the core. I'd still have all these insecurities and, you know, problems that are holding me back. So, you know, until I can change myself at, you know, the most important level, it doesn't actually matter.
And I think that moment where someone is jealous of Inari and they sort of, like, confront her with it is actually a big turning point. I think that's the time when she sort of stops thinking like, oh, it'll be easier if I'm this person, this, or like it. Like you said, Al, like sort of flips the script on her, and then I think from that moment on, she doesn't think that way. Like, you know, everybody has like moments of backstepping, but I feel like every time she uses it after that, it's not in regards to like, I can't do this thing. Like, it's more, because I feel like usually when Inari transforms, it's about, I can't do whatever it is that I need to do. So I need to transform into the person who can do it. But by the end, it's like Inari herself can do it. She realizes she can do it. And I think that's one of the big turning points for that. For her to realize I'm capable of making changes and helping my friends and, you know, helping myself. And I did really like that the ending where Uka is in trouble and Inari does the rescuing, and like it was just so well done, and it was all about Inari and Uka and their friendship, and I just liked that it really stayed focused and stayed positive.
I think there's a lot of humor in the series, like you said. I mean, one of the reasons we were originally going to write it up on the blog and then we just expanded it into a full review was that it was just such an unexpectedly funny show. That every episode just had at least one laugh out loud moment, that had wonderful timing.
Great facial expressions. Even on like the little fox creatures have funny reactions to things. I think you'll see the humor instantly. If you watch the first episode, if you haven't watched the first episode and you watch it, I died laughing in the first episode, and I knew that, you know, I really had to watch more of that show. So it reveals itself instantly.
And even the last episode, which is very dramatic and heartfelt, still had some good moments of humor and, it did not just turn into melodrama theater, even though there is a lot of melodrama and heartfelt feelings in the last episode.
And throughout this series, there's like a lot of, I feel like each episode made you laugh, but also made you feel like a warm moment. Every episode was like that. And it has a good ending. I thought that it is an ongoing manga, but the way that, this tells a whole story, I thought. So you can feel like really satisfied by the end of the 10 episodes.
And I think that it's one of those series that suggests you read the manga, but does not demand it.
I'm really curious to read the manga past this point because there's some major things that change in the last episode. So I'm just so like, how does the story continue from this point? Because it does feel like an ending, so there is going to be an OVA later in the year. So maybe that will either be a funny story from in between or maybe it continues the story, not sure yet, so. Highly recommended. Like, the best 10 episodes you will watch of the season. I don't care what else you liked. Like, this is just a really special show.
It's just a fun show with a nice range of emotions. So go out and check it out. All right. See you guys later.